right, welcome back, everybody. Again, this is Garrett from Born to Be Rad. I like to do these Saturday morning shows with you guys, these Saturday morning specials. So thank you guys for checking this out. Now, kind of a weird show today, kind of a weird topic that I want to talk about. But what made me think about this topic recently was I just sent in and got an autograph from Kevin Bacon. Just got an autograph from Kevin Bacon on a Friday the 13th poster. And when I was sending this in to get signed by him, I knew it was something unique, something different. I do have a Nightmare on Elm Street poster signed by Johnny Depp. So I wanted something kind of in the same vein of a poster that a big name celebrity was in that just maybe isn't one that, he signs often because, we think of him when it comes to things like Footloose and stuff like that. And when you really look at this guy's filmography, you really kind of think, wow, he was more of a horror actor than anything else. And even some of the movies that aren't considered necessarily horror, but more thriller, they do kind of fall in a similar category and a kind of horror adjacent based on the character he plays in the movie. So I wanted to talk about Kevin Bacon and these movies that he was in that I consider, to kind of be in that horror realm. And one of the people I want to talk to about it today was Mel over from My Killer Podcast, because I do know she's a huge Kevin Bacon fan. So Mel, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you for having me. Yes, I am a huge Kevin Bacon fan. I love him. I watched a ton of his movies back when I was a kid, and he made a big impression on me.
Did he now? Big impression?
Yeah.
So if you guys know Mel, she is 1/3 of the Radpack. She has her own YouTube channel at My Killer Podcast. She's been on this show plenty of times before. But again, going through some of Kevin Bacon's stuff, I wanted to just kind of chat up with her because I did know that she was a fan of his stuff. And again, I want to just kind of bring to the table, like, how much this guy has really brought to, the horror / thriller genre. Because when you think about him, like, I guess we talked about this a little while ago, but I guess you consider him pretty A-list. Like, everybody knows Kevin Bacon. I mean, you even have that game, like, what do they call that Kevin Bacon game? You know that one?
There's some association with Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, so it's like everybody knows him. But when you look at his like movie library, I'm kind of looking at it. I'm like, well, what does everybody know him from? Like, Footloose was a big hit. But then when I start looking at other movies that I'm like, what were the other big blockbusters that he had that really put his name on the map? And again, for me, I don't see a lot of movies on his filmography that I've watched a ton of times, except for movies that are either considered horror or thriller. And even in those thriller movies, like I said, I think they're pretty horror adjacent because the character he plays is usually kind of a sick, sadistic character in most of these movies. So it's just going to be interesting to kind of talk about him, talk about his filmography, and some of these movies that we consider, to be kind of in that horror realm that we can talk about and maybe turn on to you guys if you haven't seen some of these and put a little more light on Kevin Bacon himself. But as far as him, like, as a person, like, I don't really know much about him. Like, is he known for, like, he's kind of seems like a family man now, right? Like,
yeah,
he's on commercials and stuff now with like his kids. And was he like ever known for being like a big troublemaker or anything like that? I don't remember.
I don't really remember how he was back in the day, but I know now he lives on like a goat farm or something like that with his wife, and he plays the guitar while he sits in like his goat pen and like
he's just living on the land now,
yeah.
right? Yeah. And it's so funny because it is. And what's even crazier is like he's still working. Like he was just in 2 movies that came out this year, Maxine, which is another horror movie, and he was in the new Axel or whatever.
Oh,
Beverly Hills Cop.
Beverly Hills Cop.
Yeah, so like those movies both just came out and he's in them. And he's also supposedly in the new Toxic Avenger movie that we haven't seen yet, right? So it's like he's still working and he's still dipping his toes in like a lot of the horror genre type stuff. And it's almost like he never left. And people talk about horror and they think about people like Jamie Lee Curtis. Like, okay, she was in a lot of horror movies back in the day, but she kind of got out of the genre heavily for a long, long time and didn't want anything to do with it. He kind of kept himself in it a little bit because the first time I really remember Kevin Bacon as an early film it's got to be Friday the 13th. That came out in 1980. And this before he was even anybody was that movie. So that's kind of where he got his start. And people talk all the time about these big time celebrities that got their start in horror. I don't really think he ever really left. Now I know you're a big fan of Friday the 13th, right?
Oh, huge, just like my favorite. No.
No, huh? That's wild to me. That is wild that for somebody, that was into horror her whole life, never really became fascinated with Friday the 13th. When I saw that movie for the first time, it like literally like had my jaw dropped on like what I was watching and the twist and all the other stuff. But for you, it just didn't really connect.
Yeah, it just I don't know. It's not that I don't like it, it's just not my favorite, and it's almost like the more I hear people gush over it, the more it
Oh, you try to
makes
push back a
me
little bit, huh?
recoil. Yeah, I'm one of those.
Wow.
I'm one of those people.
Wow. So if you like a band and all of a sudden they get really popular, like fuck this band and
Well,
everybody.
it was yeah, I guess, that's who I was in high school.
Yeah.
But it was like I was always a Freddy Krueger girl. So, growing up, you always had those arguments like who was better, Jason, Michael,
Mhm.
or Freddy, and you always had to argue, which one you like better, and it was always Freddy for me.
Mhm. It's
Still
wild because it was
is.
always Jason for me as a kid,
Yeah.
always. Um, I don't know if it was just the camp vibe. I always found that fascinating. I don't know if it's because I had the NES game as a kid and I kind of was just obsessed with the hockey mask situation. I don't know, but I do remember when I saw the first Friday the 13th movie and you're expecting Jason because that's who I knew had to do with Friday the 13th. Oh, where's the hockey mask guy? Well, he's not in the first one. It was
Mm.
his mother and it was a big twist and and whatnot in the movie. And even back then, when I was assuming I was getting the hockey mask killer and I didn't, I still was really, you know, mind blown by the movie itself. And Kevin Bacon was a character in that movie, and it's kind of where he made his start. But as we kind of go through his list, like of flicks that he did, and that were kind of in this realm. Another one that he did a couple of years later was called Demon Murder Case. Now that I don't know anything about that. I don't think I've ever seen it. Um, I don't know much about it. I'm surprised it's not one that maybe, like a Vinegar Syndrome would get because it just doesn't seem like anything I've ever come across. But it seems like it was a horror flick. Do you know anything about that one?
I don't know anything about that one.
I think it was made for TV, so that's probably why we didn't really know much about it. But it was just one of those things where it still kind of fell into the same realm um, as being a little bit more horror esque, I guess. And then he obviously, came and went and did, Footloose in '84. And that's kind of really where he got a lot of his stardom. And then went on in '86 and did a movie called Quicksilver, which again was a great movie. But I just don't think a lot of people talk about it. And that's not a horror movie by any means. But again, coming off Footloose and going right into Quicksilver, I just figured that would have been a movie that more people would have, really talked about. And after that, going into '87, he did a movie called Whitewater Summer. And I know we chatted about it really quick, and you said you're not sure if you've seen that one, but
Right.
that is a movie that I think that you really should check out. Now, it's not horror. I would say it's thriller, but his character that he plays, it could easily have been a horror movie because like he plays this asshole character that you see him play in a lot of these movies. And it's just a thriller movie and I think it's just really really effective. And I do think it's one that you definitely should try to check out. Whitewater Summer, and a lot of people that have seen it love it, but I do know there's a lot of people out there that have never seen it still, and it is definitely one that I would check out. But he still kind of hung out in there in that genre, even though it was a little bit more horror adjacent with that movie. And he did a couple other things. I don't know if he was main characters or not. Like, but the next big one that kind of fell in the same horror esque was Tremors from 1990, and I know that you're a big fan of that movie. So was that kind of a movie that you feel like really won you over with him, like growing up? Was that the one?
Um, it wasn't Tremors, but Tremors was a big one for me. Tremors was a big one for my momster. She absolutely loved that one. Graboids! She she loved that one, so she was constantly watching it all the time, and she would quote that movie. So then, like, we would quote that movie back and forth to each other, and I just remember her watching it all the time, and I loved it. But, Yeah, it was just on constant rotation in my house all the time, but that
What
wasn't
did
the movie that, like, really got me into him.
was Tremors something you guys had on VHS as part of your little collection there? Because I remember
Mhm.
Tremors just being on TV a lot when I was
Yeah,
growing
we
up.
did have that one.
So that was a constant rotation for you in 1990. Um,
Mhm.
which again, I guess you can go out there and pretty much say that Tremors is a pretty much a horror movie. Um,
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
you
It
know,
has
so
monsters in it.
so yeah, I mean, so she's like, "This is horror, Mel.
Oh, yeah.
You want horror? Here's horror."
Well,
But
and I mean, like, if you think about it, it's like a horror movie, but it's not really that scary, right? Because most of the movie takes place during the day.
it's
So,
like a
it
creature
just has
feature,
like
you
a
know,
yeah,
so it
it's like a
still
creature
falls in that
feature.
realm, sure.
Mhm.
But you know, if you ask anybody what category they would put Tremors in, I mean, obviously, if you go to the video store, Tremors is in the horror section,
Mhm.
right? And again, he kind of still he didn't, you know, a lot of these actors once they kind of make it, they shy away from stuff like that, right? Like you never saw Tom Hanks really come back and get back into the genre, even though he was in a horror movie like really early on in his career. But you know, you don't see a lot of these actors come back. Even Jamie Lee Curtis, she didn't leave and then come back. Once she kind of made it, she was like, all right, I'm out.
Mhm.
I think Demi Moore too was like started in horror and then, you know, bounced off into a lot of like the Brat Pack stuff and kind of went from there. But something else in 1990 came out, which I know is another favorite of yours, and that's Flatliners, which,
Yeah.
you know, you could say sci-fi, but definitely sci-fi horror. I mean, there's definitely elements in there that would put this in that horror category. And you know, what an all-star cast. You got Kiefer Sutherland, you got Kevin Bacon. Now, is
Julia
this the
Roberts.
movie?
This is the movie.
Ah,
This is the movie that did it. I absolutely loved this one. This is such a creepy, just weird movie. It has such an ambiance and a vibe to it. All the characters are amazing and they all have their own separate little story. It's almost like an anthology, if you will. Like each character has its own little side story,
mhm.
and then they all like kind of come together because they're doing this like scientific experiment kind of thing. But yeah, this is the movie I fell in love with pretty much every single actor in this particular movie, and I watched this movie all the time.
I know you like Kiefer Sutherland as well. Now, did you see this before you saw Lost Boys as a kid, or no?
I think I might have. I don't remember. I don't remember which one I saw first, honestly.
See, like I always knew Kiefer Sutherland from Stand By Me, I think, before even Lost Boys, because I surprisingly didn't see Lost Boys until later. Um, which you would have thought I would have seen it a lot earlier in. But yeah, I think Stand By Me was probably where I was introduced to Kiefer Sutherland for the first time. But yeah, I mean he's great movie is Flatliners. And again, it's
Mhm.
one of those ones where a lot of these actors were, you know, taking chances on movies like this. Like you said, look at that all-star cast. This is a sci-fi horror movie.
Yeah.
So
I'm
pretty
actually
damn
sad
cool.
because this one doesn't get enough love. It's so good. It's
I mean, they made a
dark.
remake. Did you watch the remake?
Yeah, it's terrible.
You weren't a big fan of it,
No, it's awful. I would never recommend it to anyone.
huh?
I don't talk about it ever, and I'll never bring it up.
All right, I'll stop talking about it then. I don't get you all fired up here.
Yeah.
Um, but again, yeah, you're right. Like Flatliners is a real cool movie, and I don't think it gets enough love. And I'm wondering if there are a lot of people out there that just haven't given this movie a chance because it's not one that's talked about all that much.
Well, and
I think
that's
for
what
the
I'm wondering too, if maybe people just don't know about it. I know, like, who came out with a release of it? Was it
Arrow,
Arrow
mhm.
recently?
I think it's the
Um,
4K, right? I do believe.
yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I think was the first time that I've actually heard people talking about it, but I don't know if
Now, was this another
people actually
VHS in the
watched it.
collection as a kid, or is this something you rented or saw on TV?
VHS in the collection for sure.
Wow, is that still in there?
I don't know.
Is Flatliners and Tremors still hanging around that cabinet somewhere?
The Momster collection,
Yeah,
probably.
with the ripped cases and the food stuck on them and whatever. Yeah,
I know, right? Like, I want my mom's movies so bad, but they're, like, from my childhood, so they're just traumatized.
just getting shoved in and out of the shelf, thrown on the floor.
I can find better copies.
You know what I should do? Next time you go over there, I want you to kind of go through there, and I want you to take a picture and send to me like the worst cover like that you find. Like the one that's the most wrecked.
Just the
And take a
worst.
picture of it. I want to see what kind of battles these things have been in.
'Cause she doesn't take care of her movies, that's for
Like
sure.
if there's like a macaroni stuck on one, like I need the picture of it.
'Cause you know she ain't bagging her movies.
She's not bagging those now.
Oh my god, I let her borrow one of my DVDs once and she threw the slipcover away.
Sick, dude. She knows. She's old school, man. She wants this
Oh my
fucking
God.
cardboard. Get this out of here. You didn't give it to her with the bag on it too. She must have been like, oh, brand new? Cool.
Oh
thanks.
my god, me and her had words.
Mel, it was a piece of stupid cardboard. I couldn't even get to the movie.
Exactly. She was like, "What? I just threw the packaging away. I did you
That
a
is sick.
favor."
Wow. She knows what's up. See, she's old school.
Shush.
I saw a funny
Worst.
meme today. Somebody posted like a meme or something, and it said like old school collector, and it was like kind of like this like muscular dog or something. It said like I almost went to jail for having a VHS copy of Evil Dead, and then it said like modern collectors, and it was like this little skinny little dog, and it says there's a dent in my slipcover, and I'm gonna go on the forums and complain or something like that. That was pretty funny.
Oh my god.
That's
so
what mom
true,
stirs
though.
in. She's part of that old school mentality. Yeah.
Yeah, so true.
She had to hide Evil Dead in the backyard, like under some bushes or whatever, so you wouldn't get to it.
Right? She gives no shit. She has like regular VHSs and like the recorded VHS cardboard covers. Like she doesn't care.
Now, what did she do? Did she have a lot of like? Because obviously, you know, she had the real deals, and those weren't super cheap. At least I don't remember them being that cheap. So, where was she getting these to like have the actual editions? Where, you know, at least in my house, I had a couple, like, you know, now and then I'd have like legit editions of movies, but more or less, like my movies came off like recorded television. You had to put a sticker on and like write what was on there. You know, that's most of what the movies were that I had was just whatever we recorded off TV, and then I would just have to write my own label. Like, did you have a lot of those, or were they all like official releases that you had?
We had some of those because, you know, I told you that story about my grandpa.
I don't know. Did you?
Yeah, where we would rent movies and he would.
Oh yeah. He would.
I don't want to
like,
tell that
steal
story
them, yeah.
again. But we had a couple of movie stores in my small town. So we had Movies America and then we had Rocco's, and you could rent movies there. And then after so long, they would just sell them for cheap.
Now, does she have? You know what else I need you to try to grab is if they have like if she has one of those made, you know, the custom VHS tapes and like a little sticker on it, and it says like Mel's 5th birthday or something on there. Like those are the ones you gotta get. Those are the ones I want to see. See what's going on at that house over there. See if there's poltergeist in the background on the television. There's none of those, you're
I
saying?
think we'll pass on those.
Is there any of those home videos anywhere in there?
I don't think so.
Nobody's
We
running
might
around
have like a Mel's high school dance squad.
Look at see? Oh, like something you did? Or did you record it?
Mm-mm.
Oh. Was there anybody running around with a video camera down there?
Not when I was like super young, no.
Oh, you know what? We just did the Radpack show talking about Jim Carrey, and I totally missed an opportunity because I was going to say something about Cable Guy. Like, did it bother you that you felt like did it hit too close to home with that movie with that big satellite dish in it? Like,
I wasn't gonna say nothing.
I was gonna talk to you about that, and I totally forgot. But now that like I thought about it, like I was watching the other day, and I was like, I wonder if she's gonna rank this high or low based on that. Like, I wonder if that just is a cool thing or it just hits too close to home. That big satellite laying in.
I mean, it is reminiscent, but I mean,
You have a lay in it like that, and like just look up at the stars and whatnot.
Well, ours was kind of like tilted, so you couldn't really lay on it, but we used to climb on it.
Sick, dude. That's awesome. That's awesome.
There probably are pictures of us on it.
That you gotta get that. I gotta see that. The little Mel Douglas or whatever, little Chip Douglas.
I don't know.
But See, that's like a vlog in itself is going to that house. It's got so much goodies in there.
Shut
I'm serious. That's content right there.
No
A
way.
day, a day at the Momsters or whatever. That'd be a
A
great,
day at
great
the
episode.
monsters.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Oh my
But
god.
anyway, back to Kevin Bacon. So we had Flatliners in 1990. And then he was, he did a lot of stuff like in the 90s, like all different genres. But then all of a sudden in 94, he did this movie that, again, for the people that know the movie, I think they really love it. But I also think there's a lot of people out there that don't know this movie. And I don't know why this isn't more well loved, but it's a movie called River Wild from 1994, which again is like, it's kind of, it, it takes place with, like what's her name there? Oh my God.
Meryl Streep.
Meryl Streep. Yeah. She's like this, she takes a raft with her family down this river. And part of me as a kid, like it was like, oh, this is like a modern day Deliverance because it's the same idea, but obviously you're not getting like inbreds and all that other stuff like you were in Deliverance. But they end up meeting up with Kevin Bacon and a friend who actually come off as like a real nice guy, and they're on this river, and he's actually not. And what happens is he tries to like kill them and all this other stuff. So now they're trying to get away from him down this river, and he's just like this complete psychopath, like stalking them and hunting them down. And it's pretty on the edge of your seat suspense, and it's definitely a thriller movie. But like his character is very much, so bad that it's like a horror movie character. Like he takes it to that same level where he's just super intimidating, super evil, and it's a real cool movie, which I would even say is kind of horror adjacent in the sense that it is very suspenseful, on the edge of your seat type of stuff, and one that I think a lot of people should definitely check out if they haven't. Now, I think you said you hadn't seen this, or you haven't seen it in a long time.
I haven't seen it, but I didn't know Meryl Streep was in it. That's interesting.
Yeah,
I love
especially for
her.
94. Yeah, I would say that and Whitewater Summer would actually be a really good like double feature. Um,
Is
I
Whitewater
have
Summer kind of the same?
I would say they fall in the same vein. I would say like as far as, his characters in there, the type of movie it is, it's outdoors movies, both of them. So I would say I don't know as far as physical media. I have them both on DVD. So I don't know if they do have Blu-rays or anything like that, but yeah, River Wild and Whitewater Summer for sure. But those to me like aren't really horror movies, but his character in there it really kind of feels like it could fall in
Like
that vein,
crime
which
thrillers.
yeah, like it's bringing him back to, those type of movies. And, then in 95, I guess another big one, Apollo 13 was a big one for him. That movie he did a couple like, romantic comedy type movies and stuff like that, dramas. But, in 98, in the late 90s, he starts going back again into these movies that are horror adjacent. Now, this one I saw in theaters, and I'm not going to say it's horror, but I think a lot of people in the horror genre, people that love horror, look at this movie as kind of like it's kind of one of their own. And that's Wild Things. Now, Arrow did a big box set, a beautiful set of Wild Things. I wouldn't say it's a horror movie. It's, a thriller, I guess.
Sure.
But there are elements in it that I think horror fans really enjoy. And Kevin Bacon kind of plays a pretty big role in that movie. And I know you're a big fan of this one as well.
Mhm.
And I remember seeing this in the theater and just being absolutely blown away by how much I liked it, because it just, at that point, I wasn't used to seeing movies with like all these different twists and turns going through the movie. And it really, really stuck with me for a long time. And I absolutely love Wild Things. And, he does kind of play a character in that too that's a little bit
It's like
edgier
a
of a character.
dirty cop
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
character in there.
Yeah. So was this when you really knew you had a big, thing for bacon during Wild Things? Is that kind of when you knew it was
I had a big thing for bacon before this one,
Oh,
but
you did, yeah.
I did enjoy this movie. This was the first time that this was a different role for Nev Campbell, I guess.
Mm.
Um that I've seen her in. So I guess that's what kind of drew me to this particular movie was her weird role that she had in this one. But his character was definitely interesting because he played this like dirty cop, and he was like doing things that was like forcing the girls to do, the things that they do in the movie. And there is some murder and all the things. I don't want to like give anything away if people haven't
Sure.
seen it. I'm sure people have seen it, but it is kind of an interesting role for him. But yeah, it's a really good movie, and I like it. Yeah.
I think most people do dig this one that have seen it. I don't really hear many people bash this movie. So it is one that I think is universally loved. And like I said, it's not technically horror, but I think a lot of people can kind of put it in a category of like somewhat being, on a branch of that horror tree, I guess you would say. And that was like 1998. But another one that he did in the late 90s that, man, like it's a drama, but the character he played is he's just so good at playing like these different characters. Like in one end, he can play like the nice guy and it's believable. And then the other end, he can play this complete prick or this villain. And he's a scary villain. I feel like the way he portrays this and, with Wild Things, he kind of was on the edge of like being that level, but you got to look at the movie Sleepers, right? Like Sleepers. And I'm not sure how much you know about that movie.
I did see Sleepers.
But that, I mean, that role is insane, right?
Yeah.
Like the role that he played in that
Sleepers is a horror movie.
Is just, and again, it's a lot of people could say that, right? Like a lot of people could say, okay, you got people like Jason Patrick in it. It's got an all-star cast, but I mean, the person he plays in that movie is just one of the most evil, people I think in any movie that he's ever played. But it just goes to show kind of what kind of character actor this guy can really do. And I don't know if Sleepers was a big hit, like, or if it was just more or less like people know about it because it was just so kind of crazy.
Shocking. I guess.
Yeah.
I
Like
it was a big hit. I think it was the shock factor of it is how I feel about it. Because it's one of those movies. It's like you see it once and you never forget it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true. And it's not one of those ones that you technically want to keep watching over and over and over again. It's like, oh, I saw it. So is it not in the collection?
Nope.
No, it's not there.
It is one Bacon movie I will never buy.
Yeah, I did buy the Blu-ray, actually.
Oh, why?
I wanted to see it in HD, no?
Shut up.
I'm kidding. But late 90s, 1999, I know this is a big one you want to talk about. We've talked about this before on a Radpack episode. And this is Stir of Echoes, which is technically, I mean, this is a horror movie. I mean,
oh yeah, this is straight up horror.
So again, he's back in the genre. For this movie, he's the lead here. And we do talk a lot about it on our Radpack episode called something Bad Neighbors. We talk about this flick. And I know you're a big fan of it. So, whatever you want to say about this thing. I don't know if you saw this in theaters or if this is something you snagged on physical afterwards, but it definitely stuck with you.
That's actually a good question. I don't remember if I saw this in theaters or not. I remember when it came out, and I remember it being a big deal, and I wanted to see it really bad. Yeah, I think it was just promoted really well, and it had him in it, and I was excited to see it. And then I saw it, and it just became an instant favorite of mine, and it is now a comfort movie of mine. I play it constantly. It's like one of those movies you run in the background when you're doing crap around the house kind of thing. I just absolutely love it. It's such a great movie. It is a paranormal movie. He doesn't play like a bad role. He's kind of like not like the hero. Well, yeah, you could say he's like the hero or like the main character of the movie, but he plays such a cool role in it too. He's like the cool guy. He has like, you know, his costuming in the movie is great, and he has like this really cool like swagger about him in the movie, and the plot line is really great. There is kind of like a not so great part of the story, but it gets rectified in the end. It's a really cool movie, and I really enjoy it. Did you ever end up watching this one? I don't remember if you
Oh
did
yeah,
or
no,
not.
I saw it in the theaters.
Oh, you
I
did see
think what
it?
it was is that, yeah, I get that confused a lot with what's the other one that came out around that time? What Lies Beneath or something. I think they came out around the same time, and I remember seeing them both in
The
theaters. And I
Michelle
always get
Pfeiffer
those,
movie?
yeah, like for some reason I always get those two like mixed up or
That
whatever.
one's really great too,
It is good. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I did watch this. I've seen this probably like a couple times, but I think what it was that I didn't remember when we did our episode if this was like if this all took place in a neighborhood or not. So that's why I think where I had to go back
Mhm.
and check it out. But yeah, I always thought this was a great movie. Um, and again, it just shows that he's back into that horror element where he kind of stays for a little bit during the early 2000s, which again, going back to why we're talking about him is that I don't think he gets enough credit for what he has done, in that genre itself and how he's kind of stuck with it through all his successes. And in 2000, a great movie that it was in was Hollow Man. I thought Hollow Man was a fantastic movie. I remember seeing that in the theater and being just blown away by some of the effects at that time. And I thought that was a real fun movie, and I still think it works really well.
Yeah, I saw Hollow Man in theater too, actually, and it was great, and it has Elizabeth Shue in it, and I
I
really
love
love
Elizabeth Shue.
her.
Hell yeah.
I loved the effects in it too. I remember thinking that some of them were cheesy when I saw it in theater, but I don't care now. I
You
still
didn't you
love
didn't
them.
like but I don't know what like it was a weird time, like that weird 2000s, late 90s, like where CGI was like kind of trying to find its way. Like,
Yeah, well, there's like a scene in the movie where they do like the weird prosthetics on his head, and you can like see through the eyes or whatever. And I
oh, you
mean,
don't like that?
it's kind of
The
cheesy, but it's
invisible man
funny.
look or whatever. You're not a big fan of that. Um,
But it's to be expected. But the movie's great. It's fun, you know.
yeah, Hollow Man rules. I think
Mhm.
most people have probably seen it, but if you haven't, I would check it out. I just bought a steelbook, I think, recently.
Yeah,
So I think it just came out.
it's a
But
Blu-ray steelbook. Is it this one?
uh yes. Oh, it's a Blu-ray steel, yeah. So I just
Mhm.
picked that up. I kind of upgraded my DVD copy of it. So that's out now if anybody's interested in that. And that, he like we said about the 2000s, like 99 he did Serve Echoes, 2000 he did Hollow Man. 2002 he did a movie. I guess it's a thriller, maybe. I said before we went on, you would name in a couple movies, and I was like, I never saw it, and that was Trapped.
Yeah. I don't
Um,
know if you want me to show this, but I have it right here.
yeah, I've actually never even heard of it. So
This movie's really good,
now,
actually.
how did you kind of find out? Was that something in the theater? Did you just happen to come across it? Were you collected bacon stuff? Like, I'm surprised
Um,
I've never even heard of that.
I was collecting Charlize Theron stuff,
Oh,
actually, because I'm a huge fan of hers. And then, of course, when you come across a movie where it has like her and Kevin Bacon in it at the same
mhm.
time, you gotta buy it, right? Um, but yeah, it's a super cool movie. It's a thriller of sorts, but he's like the bad guy in it, of course, and he kidnaps her and her kid. And that's not a spoiler because it happens like right away in the beginning. And he holds them hostage, and the whole movie is like the struggle between them two and him throughout like the whole movie. And it's really good, and it has Courtney Love in it too, who I think plays a really
Ooh,
great character. Yeah, she plays a
that's
really
cool.
great character in the movie. But I highly recommend watching it. It's fantastic, and it's super suspenseful.
Wow, yeah, I'm gonna have to try to track that down. I'm assuming it probably just has a DVD copy, which I'll track that.
That I have no idea. I've actually had this DVD forever.
Was that like an unstolen one? Is that what that was?
Yeah.
That was, yeah. That didn't make the cut?
Yes. So I probably have had this since maybe shortly after it came out.
That's funny. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to try to check that out, for sure, because I do like his roles as like the villain in a thriller, and I feel like we've seen just talking about this that he plays a similar role like a bunch of different times. Like he's kind of like a
Mhm.
good, prick heel or villain in these thriller movies. In 2015, he did a movie that I would say it's like a crime thriller as well, but it really could fall a little bit as a horror adjacent, and that's a movie called Cop Car. I don't know if you ended up seeing that one.
Mm-mm, I didn't see
Um,
that
he
one.
basically plays like an evil cop, basically. Um, and it's definitely one I would probably check out. I know it has a Blu-ray. I have it. Like I said, it came out in 2015, but you could definitely kind of look at that almost like stalk and slash type of movie here. But it's definitely one to check out, and that's a movie called Cop Car in 2015. So again, it's just really checking and seeing where his filmography is going at this point, and these are a lot of his movies. He does some one-offs here and there. He's got some small roles and like comedies and all this other stuff, but a lot of his movies are kind of sitting in this like thriller, horror element type movies where a lot of these big name actors just don't do a lot of this kind of work, I feel like. Um, and he was in a movie in 2016, which I never saw, called The Darkness, and it seems pretty horror based. I don't know if you're familiar with this.
I did watch the trailer for that, and it does look like a straight up horror movie. It kind of made me want to watch it, but I didn't get around to it.
And but he looks like he plays like maybe like a dad or something like that, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I never saw that either. I don't know I don't know much about it, but it definitely has. I remember seeing the cover because it's got a very horror looking cover, and that was a 2016 movie, so it's relatively recent. Um, and
You
another
know what
one,
I did watch though?
what?
You skipped over this one because it's a TV series, but The Following, it is a TV series, but it was actually really good. I did watch that. He plays a police detective where he's following the serial killer, and trying to catch the serial killer that, like, methodically is, like, murdering all of these people. It
Hmm,
wasn't on for very long. I think it was only on for, like, 2 seasons, but it was really good.
nice.
It
No,
kinda yeah, it kinda sucked that it wasn't on for longer, but it was super good for the 2 seasons that it was on for.
now was he in True Detective too? Was that him or no? Because everybody keeps telling me I need to watch that, and I know that they keep changing cast as they go. I don't know if you ever
Yeah, I
watched.
only watched the 1st season because it was, like, Woody Harrelson was in that
Oh,
one.
he was in that. Okay.
So, I didn't watch any of the other ones. I think it was, like, Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey or something
Is
like
that
that.
what it was? Yeah. People keep
Mhm.
always bring that up. Have I seen it? I'm like, no, I haven't seen it. And like, you gotta watch it. But I didn't know if he was part of that whole crew because I knew they were changing casts every once in a while.
I think it's, like,
Um,
every season, isn't it? Or
I think that's what they were doing.
yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause, yeah, as soon as I found that out, I was like, "I'm out."
Because you wanted more Woody.
I wanted more Woody.
I get it. I get you. But we kind of go towards the end of his filmography here with some of these later ones. Like I never saw this. I heard mixed things about it. A movie called They Them that came out in like 2020, 2022-ish or something like that.
Yeah, I
It
kinda
was a
wanted to
couple
watch
years
that,
ago.
but I never got around to it, but you said it wasn't great or
I heard mixed things. I think it was about maybe a camp or something like that. I don't really know. I don't know what his role is. Maybe a counselor or something. I'm not sure exactly. I never saw this, but I did hear mixed things about it. And that was kind of the last thing he did as far as horror based. And then, now we've got Maxine, which he plays a really cool role in Maxine. And then he was also in Toxic Avenger, which we still haven't, you know, got to see yet. And I think that was made in
Mhm.
like 2023. So he's still kind of dipping his feet into the genre, which is cool to see. And it's cool to see, like I said, that he's not, he's not trying to avoid the genre like a lot of these celebrities do for some reason. I think that they think there's like, I don't know, a weird stigma to be linked to horror movies, which is weird because I feel like horror movies always do really well.
Yeah, I feel like there's a
Like,
huge community for it.
yeah, I mean, you look at like Maxine and all these. I'm assuming Maxine did pretty decent. Longlegs probably did pretty well. But you know, a lot of people just kind of steer clear of that. But maybe now they're kind of coming back with things like how popular Halloween is again and Scream, is that these big celebrities like, oh yeah, I'll go back and do this again. But you know, for somebody to like of his status to be like, oh yeah, I'll do Toxic Avenger remake. You know, it's just crazy to me that he'd be so down for something like that. It doesn't seem like he really cares. Like he just probably looks and says, "This sounds interesting, I'll do it." Or people are paying him a lot of money to do it. I don't know which one,
Yeah.
but it seemed
Maybe
like
he
he had
just
a hell
really
of a
trusts his manager. His manager gives him a script and he's like, "Okay."
I'll do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if a lot of his stuff that he's done recently is shitty or not. Like I thought the new Beverly Hills Cop was good. I thought his role in Maxine was really good. It's different. It's kind of got a little bit of he's kind of a little bit of the comedic part of the movie in a weird sense. He's kind of a zany character, but and he's kind of an asshole too. So I mean, it really is something different, and I think it seemed like he had a fun time playing that character as
Well,
well.
does it
So
seem like his roles are very big though? Like, how big was his role? Or well, I don't want
in
you to give
Maxine,
anything
he
away,
actually had
but
a pretty big role in Maxine.
oh, did it?
Yeah,
Because
he
I
was a
watched To
pretty
Leave
big
the
part of
World
it.
Behind, and his role wasn't very big in that. So I'm kind of wondering if maybe he's just not taking on super huge
Mm,
roles.
mhm. I'm gonna say with Maxine, I mean, he was a good part of the movie. So, like his role, yeah, I would say his role was in maybe half the movie.
Mm.
He was basically like a hired. I don't know what you would say. He's not a cop, but he was like almost like a hitman. Like he was hired. Like oh my god, you know, someone that was hired to track this girl down, to Maxine down.
Mm.
Um,
Like a private eye, like a PI.
Yeah, something like that. Um, so I mean, he has a really cool character in that, and it seemed like he really took it serious, and it's cool, like I said, to see him continue to dip back into the genre, and you know, from here, who knows where we go. But I just thought this would be an interesting topic because we don't really talk about someone like a Kevin Bacon much, because I don't think he's really looked at enough as someone that's been important to the genre. And you know, as an actor, like some of these roles that he's done, I think he's done such a great job that in these thrillers, like he comes off as like a horror-esque character because like he's just so good at being that bad guy. Um,
Mhm.
and it's funny because in a lot of horror movies, he ends up being just like the good guy, but in these like thrillers, he's always the villain.
The bad guy.
Um, yeah, for real, for sure. But I don't know. I thought it would be something different. I know you're a big Bacon fan. We could chat about it. And again, maybe some of these movies, like we said, Whitewater Summer, River Wild, are movies that no one's seen, which I think are definitely ones that you should hunt down and track down. And I know you're really excited to see Maxine. I don't know if you're going to be able to catch it in theaters or not, but I think you'll probably like his role in it as well.
Yeah, I definitely wish I would have made it a point to go check that one out, but I'll catch it here eventually.
I mean, at this point, the way things come out on streaming, who knows how long it'll be before it
Yeah,
comes
I
out. It
could
might not be
probably
that
Fandango it soon-ish, I'm assuming.
long. You don't see you don't see any way to get out to that theater anytime soon.
Well, because, like, The Crow's gonna be dropping here shortly, so I'm gonna be wanting to
When
go
is
see
that,
that one.
anyways?
It's like
Is there a date?
August something, 23rd or something like that.
So that's definitely already marked on the calendar as a thing to do.
Of
I think
course.
you took the didn't you take the day off from work to go or something? You're making a whole day of it or something?
I might wanna go twice.
You're doing a little double feature.
Maybe, I don't know.
It says in your calendar, Crow Day. It's everything's blocked off.
Right?
That's cool. It's cool. That's
You
a really
never
good time. You
know.
gonna go on like are you gonna go like the earliest showing, like to get there quick, or are you just gonna go that weekend when you have time?
We'll see. I don't know. It's
Are you
gonna
far
be
from a theater? Is that why?
yeah, I'm pretty
Are you
far.
really?
Yeah, I'm like an hour.
What?
I'm an hour from
Wow.
everything, remember?
That's right. That is
An hour
crazy.
from work.
That's crazy. Now, is it one of those things where you have to kind of plan a night out to go do this, or is it one of those things where you're like, I'm just gonna have to go right from work? It only makes sense to do it this way.
Yeah, I can pop over from work if I time it right,
Mhm.
kind of thing. But then,
I hear you, but it's sure there's everybody out there is just clamoring for The Crow right now. So
everyone wants to see it.
Dude, what were they doing?
I have to go twice.
What were they doing with that poster, dude?
Come on. Oh my god, please, about the poster.
Why would they do that?
What is wrong with it?
I don't know what it is. It doesn't look like a Crow movie. That's for damn sure. I don't know what that looks like. Some kind of like samurai martial arts,
but
like Marvel movie or something like that.
What happens in the movie? He probably runs around with a sword.
You can have a sword, but I mean, I don't know. I don't know if that would be my cover. I don't know. It looked a little silly to me.
What was wrong with it? That's what modern day posters look like.
You know, it's kind of cringe. It's just, I don't know. Like, I didn't mind the teaser with just the eyes and stuff like that in his face. I thought that was cool. Yeah, I thought that was cool, but I don't know what this thing is. That's like that Halloween poster that they did. Was it Halloween Ends where it looked like Jamie Lee and Myers were like back to back, like they were like buddy cop or something like that?
Oh, I don't know.
You never saw that one? There was like a second poster. I was like, oh, that's like, it looked like some kind of weird buddy cop movie or something.
What did you say it looked like? Van Helsing?
It looked like, yeah, like this Crow movie looks like it's like a new Van Helsing movie or something. And then you're like, oh, it does? I'm going to watch it. So
where's movie? All right.
You didn't like it?
This is terrible.
You're like, it reminds you of Van Helsing? I'm like, yes. You're like, all right. And like an hour later, you're like, so I watched Van Helsing based on what you said.
An hour later, that movie's 2 hours long.
Oh my God. 2 hours later. Sucks. So anything I tell you that, like, I could tell you The Crow looked like anything and you'd watch it, right?
Maybe.
Well, now I gotta watch this Fall Guy because you keep hyping it up.
Promises.
I'll watch it. I'll watch it this weekend. Fall Guy. I know we're not talking about Fall Guy, but leave in the comments if you guys like Fall Guy. Yeah, she keeps telling me I need to watch it.
It's great.
All right. It's I like Gosling, but I don't know if this is my kind of Gosling. I don't know.
But listen, at the very least, you're gonna come out of this movie had been thoroughly entertained.
I hope so. Is it serious or silly? I don't.
Okay, can you just do me a favor? Just don't roll your eyes within the first 30 minutes.
Oh no, 30 minutes? I gotta like hold it back?
Can you not for 30 minutes?
I'll do my best, but all right, we'll talk about it. Anyhow, this was our Baconator show.
We should have had Baconators. Why didn't we do that?
Well, we'll go get them now. It'll be our Saturday morning snack. Saturday lunch snack.
We'll eat Baconators while this premieres.
Yeah, they'll do that. But thank you so much for doing this with me. Like I said, it was a little bit of a weird, concept, but it was interesting. After I got that poster signed, I was like, what movies was he in horror related? Because when you had options to like get things signed, there wasn't a lot of horror movie stuff. And I was like, that's weird because I do feel like he's in a lot. And then when I went back and looked at his filmography, I'm like, outside of horror movies, like he's in so many of these thrillers or these movies that could be considered a little bit horror adjacent with these characters that he plays. And I'm like, all right, let's talk about it because he doesn't get enough love in the horror community, I feel like, for all the work he's done, kind of in the genre, and that he's still doing it in the genre with things like Maxine and stuff. So, Mel, where can they find you?
My Killer Podcast.
She's always putting shit out. You got to go over there. Go check it out. But guys, thank you for checking this out. This is Garrett, Born to Be Rad, and like always, stay